Good morning, everybody. I'm Larry Weushuhn. If you enjoy real-world hunting and fishing talk, you're really going to enjoy listening to my good friend, Luke Clayton, and his guest for the next hour.
This is David Fox, and welcome to Outdoors with Luke Clayton and Friends. Luke has been a recognized outdoors writer for the past 3 decades and writes for a host of outdoor publications. Luke pens a weekly newspaper outdoors column that appears in over 40 Texas newspapers. Luke is on the pro staff of Pyramid Air, your one-stop shop for everything airgun related. Smoking Tech's electric smokers and AGM Global Vision, maker of an awesome line of thermal hunting scopes and spotters. Feel free to contact Luke through his website, catfishradio.org. Now let's join Luke and his guests for this week's show.
Well, thank you guys for that nice introduction. And folks, welcome to this week's Campfire Talk with Larry Weushuhn. Larry's with us, and actually today is the day of our outdoor rendezvous in Greenville, March the 1st. If you're listening on a real radio station right now, March the 1st, and many of you are, come on out to Greenville, Texas in Hunt County, just off Interstate 30, about an hour east of Dallas, to the top Rail Cowboy Church. Larry and I are here. There's a whole bunch of fun folks out here. A lot going to be going on today. A good eating, a lot of good. We're going to have some fried fish, cobbler, and pozole, you name it. But don't let this trick you up. If you're listening to a podcast after all our great radio stations runs this, and it's not March the 1st, we won't be there. Larry, thank you for being. I think I made this clear. I hope I did.
Luke, I really think you did, and we need to very quickly thank DSC, Conservation Education, Hunter Advocacy, Hornady, accurate, deadly, dependable, Carr that makes the Raging Hunter handguns that I shoot, Mossberg, which is made, their guns are made in Eagle Pass, Texas. Got Vineyard Max over at Nacogdoches, makers of the fantastic deer attractant, and then so many other great products, and Stealth Vision from over at Crockett, Texas.
Yep.
Several of those guys are going to be there with us from different companies and all those kind of things. And that part of East Texas is truly special. But I really need to tell you a little bit this morning, if you don't mind, about some of my adventures out in far western Texas. Now, I know we've got some radio stations that have come on board over around Andrews, right along
we
that
do.
New Mexico border. And in what almost seems like another lifetime now, many years ago, I worked as a wildlife biologist for a while in the Permian Basin, which that is a portion of, and particularly there, like in Andrews and Yoakum and Terry and those counties right there along the border. We did a lot of, back then there were still a fair number of lesser prairie chickens, and I remember going in a like a 152 Cessna and flying all that country. This was a long time ago, but a lot of it now is turned into farmland. But back then it was sand and shin oak country, and we were looking to see where we had good habitat and where we might be able to, still find prairie chickens at the time. And back then there really weren't a whole lot of deer out there at all. There was a little park called Flory Park, kind of up there around Plains, kind of over there close to Andrews, and that's really where the only deer were at that time. But I remember the pilot's name was Joe Meeks, and we were flying in the Olive Sand country, and this was back in it had to been in early October, maybe the middle of October, and did not expect to see any mule deer. And he and I looked down, and there were 5 of the biggest mule deer bucks that I have ever seen in my life, in mounts, live or in any other place, or taken by other hunters. Those deer that were just absolutely phenomenal. I remember their antlers being as heavy as they were thick around the ear bases, and most of the bucks were at least 30 inches wide with all kinds of points. And so I could, to this day, I can close my eyes and still see that group of bucks. But back then, there weren't a whole lot of them. And then over the years, there were, changes and changes in attitudes. And these days, there's a pretty darn decent mule deer population in some of the biggest mule deer in the state of Texas. And even over across the border in New Mexico, live in that sand country out there now. And it's really amazing how that deer population has increased. But that's thanks to a lot of protection from the landowners and, providing water and some of the pivot irrigations that they put in out there provide year-round feed. And so it really has made a difference. But that old country out there in that Permian Basin still is very, very, very dear to me, even though we're over, could it be in East Texas kind of thing.
I know, Larry. I've been through that area going out to hunt in New Mexico. But I'll tell you, folks, if any of you up around Andrews are listening, I have a target goal, Larry and I, to get up in that country. Larry, I'd like to get back up there and get you back in that country you was in. I'm going to guess the late 60s maybe when you were spending that time there.
Yeah, it was late 60s and particularly during the middle 1970s when we did a lot of work out there. Well,
wouldn't it be fun to connect with somebody out there that had some of that country and go back out there this fall and again hunt up in there? Wouldn't that be fun?
Absolutely, or just to even get back out there and visit. So
yeah,
I know the country has changed, and like you, I've driven through that area numerous times over the years, going to New Mexico or to hunt or just to spend time with the family out there, kind of thing. But that area, we're so fortunate, I guess, in Texas and so many other places when you get right down to it, to have such variety of habitat. I mean, we're going to be over in eastern Texas in the edge of the piney woods, and the Cross Plains sits between there. We got the Rio Grande Plains down in South Texas and the hill country and the Panhandle in that Permian Basin area, and each of it's got its own kind of beauty, if you will, in terms of vegetation and terrain. Sometimes you got to look a little bit harder to find some of that beauty, but let me tell you, it is there. And I know the other states are that same way as well too. Maybe not quite as diverse as what we are, because we run all the way from the Gulf Coast to huge mountains out in West Texas, and then like Guadalupe Peak and the Palo Duro Canyon there that kind of rivals the Grand Canyon in its own little way, kind of thing. So we're fortunate, by golly.
We are, Larry. Just think back this past season, just in Texas, some of the diverse habitat that we hunted together over in East Texas with Jeff Rice in the Piney Woods, forest. And a lot of people, when they think about coming to Texas, they don't realize that the eastern third, probably third, maybe fourth, I don't know, but the eastern part of Texas is forest. And they're always thinking, so many people think of it as being like a high desert or down in the brush country when they're coming to Texas. But no, we've hunted from there to the extreme out in your lease way out in West Texas in Sterling County, which is you'd think you were in a different country comparing the habitat. And then just across the border, we hunt. The Choctaw tribe is a friend of the Choctaw Nation, I should say.
Yes,
a friend of ours, and we hunted up in the southeast Oklahoma, the Choctaw Hunting Lodge with Dusty Vickery, the manager, and his wife Nicole. I mean that is just that's pretty good, pretty diverse. Just think about those, and none of them. Just say from where I live, not far from Dallas, you can be in any of those places, and you can leave in the morning and be hunting in any of those places in the afternoon, and that alone is pretty amazing, Larry.
It really is. Beyond where you mentioned, I got to spend some time hunting mule deer this year up close to Dalhart and Amarillo, and it brings back the fact too that those mule deer there really look more like Rocky Mountain mule deer than our desert mule deer do out in the far western Texas kind of thing, out in the Trans-Pecos area. So you're right. We're very blessed, and where I live, it a lot of times it's a 6, 7, 8, 9 hour drive. So
I know.
Blessed. But you, like me, like to get up really early, and so I can leave the house at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you're right. I can be hunting that afternoon, pretty much most of the places in Texas.
That's right. Larry, I'll invite our friends listening to watch our weekly TV show. I honestly don't know another. I don't mean this to be a bragging way, but we do a weekly TV show that's on Carbon TV, folks. It's also on YouTube. A lot of people watch it on Carbon TV. It's called A Sportsman's Life, and you can search that out on Carbon TV or YouTube. But I was just mentioning the hunt that we had out in far west Texas on Larry's lease. That's now, that was just recent. But that's Jeff Rice, our friend and part of the Sportsman's Life trio. Jeff has already put that on Carbon TV and YouTube. So you can watch that hunt and see some of it. And you can watch the hunt in Oklahoma, can't they, Larry? That's there, too.
Yeah, they can, including for the mule-footed or the Choctaw hog that you took up there kind of thing. And you're right. I've been involved in outdoor television for a long, long time.
You have.
But it was a totally different deal with the networks that we dealt with, because all the hunts and things that we did, like just in the last 2 or 3 months, you'd have to wait to, start in July to even see those. And, conditions change from time to time. And the beauty of this show, which I am so very proud of to be a part of with you and Jeff Rice, is that if we do something this week, you're going to see it next week. And in some instances, now that Jeff has got a little bit more time, I got a feeling there'll be some things that we do on a Monday and Tuesday that by the end of the week, they may even be on the show. So whatever you see on our Sportsman's Life, it's current. It's real world. I love that part of it. We don't have a film crew. We film ourselves for the most part, but and we're getting better all the time, thankfully, for that. But my gosh, it's in the present. It's not like, well, we did it last winter time, and now it's summertime, and so
who wants to watch it? Who wants to see a turkey hunt in December? Spring turkey hunt. I've learned a lot, Larry. You're, like you mentioned, your years of TV. You were on many networks for many, many years, and that combined with Jeff's videography skills. And then my connections as far as places to go and things to do also, it's pretty diverse. That hunt out in West Texas, you mentioned real world, the way it really happens. Yes. In that situation, we showed it, and I'm happy that we did. But I shot a management buck just before dark, and I probably had 30 minutes of light, and lost the blood trail after about 60, 70 yards. There was no more blood trail. And I saw him actually made a hard hit on that deer. But so I looked till it was pitch dark with my flashlight. I saw 2 other deer running to the left, and I thought he was either with them or one of them. It happens so quick when you're hunting. So I went to the left. I've trailed him up to a cedar. You remember that cedar? And I thought, he went. I said he could have went to the right, but I saw these deer running to the left. So that we scoured that area again, and no sign. And we're coming back. Jeff and I circled around where, just in case he might have went to the right. He ran about 120 yards is all he went, and we were out there. I know we scoured at least 10 acres, probably more than that.
Oh yes.
But the deer. But so we found the deer the next morning. It was a cold night, and it was not your magazine picture photographs of this deer. He had been out all night, but
in the rain.
in the rain, it was not a pretty photograph of a harvested deer, but it's what happened. And I remember mentioning that the meat was good. It was cold. I mean, real cold. So we didn't have. I wasn't worried about the meat. But typically I would have loved to have recovered that deer that evening, set the camera up, even if I needed to put him in the lights of the truck or something, and show a recently harvested buck. But that's not what happened, and that's not what we showed, was it?
No. And in my instances, I was trying to take a particular 10-point buck, and when he did come by, he came by to run. Now, I've got years of experience of shooting running animals, so I knew with the combination of Mossberg stealth and vision and Hornady that I could put that animal down. And but there wasn't time to get the camera on him, so we ended up showing, hey, this is what happened, and I explained. I said, the deer just came running by, and there's no time for a camera, and it's late in the season, they're late in their hunt, and I knew that I could take them, and I did. So, but we still got to show that animal. But you're right, it is real world. If we do something, we show it. If we don't do something, meaning not catch a fish or not take an animal, we're still going to show how much fun it is of going on the hunt. And then, of course, with your expertise in the outdoor world kitchen, pretty much every show's got some kind of cooking segment in it, or most of them do. And my God, some of the recipes that you provide there and the food that you show, they're second to none. Look, I've traveled the world in hunting camps, and they don't come any better than what you do and what you show in that particular segment.
It's a lot of fun. Larry, they're telling me we need to take a break, but would you come back this week and I'm not through talking. We need to develop. Okay, hang with me. We'll take a break. We'll come right back. How about it?
You got a deal, sir.
Folks, I want to introduce you to Vineyard Max. Now, this is an awesome deer attractant, a food attractant that's made with hammer-milled grape skin, dried hammer-milled grape skins. It has a mixture of rice bran and also corn chops. Very effective. Deer can smell the scent of grapes from a long way, and it brings them in. I've used it in West Texas out with Larry Weushuhn, and we were out there where deer are not even exposed to grapes, and they came right in. Also, Vineyard Max has a very good line of game and fish feeders. Check them out online, vineyardmax.net. Folks, this segment is made possible by Ultramatic Feeders. Go online to ultramaticfeeders.com and check out the most awesome line of game feeders in the world. I've been using these things for 15 years, and I've got one that's been in the woods about 10 or 11 years. I forget exactly how long. Check them out, ultramaticfeeders.com. Friends, I want to tell you about an awesome camping destination, Wind Point Park on Lake Tawakoni. It's over on the far east side, kind of the northeast side of the lake. It's a pristine park. You can go there and view, I think they estimated a couple of hundred deer on that couple of hundred acres there. Cabins, beautiful RV park, fishing piers, docks. It's got everything you'd want in an outdoor destination. Check them out online at windpointparktx.com. Folks, this segment is made possible by Smoking Tex electric smokers that I've been using a long, long time, Catfish Pro, catfishing baits and catfish supplies, Ultramatic feeders, and AGM Global Vision, maker of the spotters and thermal scopes that I hunt with. Welcome back, folks. We still have Mr. Whitetail. Larry Weushuhn's with us. I wasn't through talking, and I know Larry was. Thanks for coming back in segment 2, Larry.
Look, thank you so very much for allowing me to be back on again. We do. Sometimes these things go way too fast.
Oh, they do. That's why we have the option for going into segment 2. To the outdoor rendezvous that's going on March the 1st, today, if you're listening on the radio again, at the Top Rail Cowboy Church in Greenville, Texas. It's just off of Interstate 30, about an hour east of Dallas. This today, of course, we're talking early, but this is going to be a gathering of some serious outdoor people and just everybody else. But Larry, I'm going to tell you, there's some people that's going to come out of the woodwork today that some you know and you've met, and some you haven't.
Yes, sir.
For instance, Glenn Miller is a reader that's been reading my outdoor column in the newspapers for a long time. Went fishing with him. This guy is a storehouse of knowledge on catching catfish and probably bass and everything else. But he lives to fish. I've talked to him a lot. He's going to be there. I mean, it's going to be an opportunity for people to come around the campfire and you know, you and I'll be there, and I tell you, someone else that's going to come, supposed to be there, is Ravis Wortham. Ravis is a book author, you know, an outdoor writer, and kind of known for his humor stories and things that he's written. Texas Fish and Game, but he'll be there with us.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah,
Revis is an old friend. You know, he's got a series of Western books that he's done that have won all kinds of awards. And what a great storyteller! And I am thrilled to hear that he's going to be there with us.
Yeah, I think he will be there, and just a lot of very knowledgeable outdoor people. So I'll tell you what I did. I did some sampling of it, and it's pozole. I've cooked pozole a few times, and I've tried to mimic some of the recipes I've seen, like on YouTube and all that. And it's turned out good. It was good, but I tried it a different way. I took a pork shoulder, Larry, and this is, I'll give it the thumbs up because it's pretty tasty. But I've never seen it cooked this way. Just a kind of a small pork shoulder, and I doctored it up with some dry seasoning, you know. And I put a whole bunch of tomatillos, maybe 10, in this aluminum pan, and probably 10 poblano peppers in there with it, and 2 or 3 jalapeno peppers. And I thought, well, every recipe for pozole, they put it in a blender, you know, put all the veggies in there and blend it all, pulverize it like a paste, really, I guess. And I thought, well, why not just cook it? I cooked this like 13 hours. I smoked it, hickory smoke, and then I let it get smoked up good, and then I put the foil over the aluminum pan. Let all those vegetables and all that stuff cook all night. The juices, those tomatillos were just cooked. They're as tender as they could get, you know?
Perfect. So
what I did, I cooked this ahead of time, you know, of course, and it's already ready.
Right.
Yep. So I put some rubber gloves on, and those tomatillos were falling apart. And instead of the blender, I just squeezed and mashed those things up with the peppers. Everything was real tender. So I put it in a big old pot with some chicken stock, cilantro. Trying to remember all those vegetables went in there, and chopped up all that roast or that shoulder. That actually is like pulled pork if you want to make barbecue out of it. Smoked pork, cilantro, onions, and garlic, and Mexican oregano. Put some of that in there. Cumin, added some cumin to it. A gallon of hominy. You know, drain the hominy and put a gallon of hominy. Chop that cilantro up real fine, and you know, I can't remember the smashed garlic. Probably about 6 pods of that is in there, and probably a few things I forgot to mention that I just had handy that I put in there. Of course, put salt, and then a little. It didn't need a lot. It did need a little more heat. So a can of Rotel, the chopped up. You know.
Oh yeah.
I put that in there. It's so. But anyway, and then I just kind of cut the heat down and let all that simmer for about 2 or 3 hours, and it turned out pretty good. It's something about leaving that lid on it, even though everything was done. Just kind of all those flavors kind of mesh. So we're going to have we're going to have a pot of pozole. I hope people like that. I think you and I know your taste buds. Me and you probably not will. We'll eat it, you know.
You're right, and I won't complain if everybody decides they don't want any, so I can take some back with me.
There's only one thing that I would not do, because I mean, if I showed up out there without the cobbler, I might as well go home. Larry would be all over that. He wouldn't accept that at all. And we'll have this time we're going to have 2 gallons and 1 quart. That's what the peach quantity is. Yeah.
Oh my
so
goodness.
That's double. I never make enough, you know. But
no, you don't.
I cook them. I think, well, this is a lot, but it goes quick when people attack it. You know, they're all over it.
Absolutely, and of course there'll be other food there as well too. there's going to be a chili cook-off going on at the same time.
That's right.
So, there's opportunity to sample that. I know that the Dutch Oven Society is going to be there, and they'll be doing some cooking. And there's
Chuck Wagons,
got Chuck Wagons, and I know you mentioned there's going to be some fish probably being fried there, but a really good fisherman from up at Lake Texoma, and then your nephew, who
Billy,
crappie guide. So those guys know what they're doing as well too.
They know their way around a Dutch kettle with hot grease in it. That's for sure.
Yes, they do.
Larry, I appreciate you coming back and talking to us a little more. I want to mention your website, LarryWeushuhn.net. Spell that out for them and invite them to go there. Your book is there about your deer book, and then our hog book, and then our Campfire Talk book is all available through your website, isn't it?
They are available there. There's a ton of blogs. There's a way to access my personal DSC's Campfires podcast and A Sportsman's Life. And to get there, you just go, it's all lowercase, all run together, and it's spelled LarryWeushuhn.net. And there's all kinds of good information there, and all kinds of stories and all kinds of different things. And then, too, remind people as well that our books are also available on your catfishradio.org website as well, too. So love for people to go there and visit, and, love to hear from them as well, too.
That's right, Larry. Well, thanks for coming back. We've got some more what we call hardcore hunting and fishing coming up. Couple more yes, segments, sir. But thank you for being back with me, and we're going to do this again next week, just like we've done for the past 18.25 years now, Larry. So,
oh my gracious! Well, we'll look, as you mentioned, we'll look be back here next week and look for everybody joining us.
Folks, let's talk a little outdoor cooking. Let me tell you about an electric smoker that I've been using for 15 years, I guess. Smoking Tex electric smokers. If you're tired of staying up all night keeping that wood fire burning when you're barbecuing, give Smoking Tex a try. They're made to last a lifetime. You can check them out at smokingtex.com. That's SMOKINTEX.com. Well, friends, Mr. Larry Weushuhn is going to tell you about the finest hunting optics that we have ever found.
Luke, these are called Stealth Vision. They come from Crockett, Texas. Dr. John McCall developed them. They're 34-millimeter tubes as opposed to the narrower tubes, so more light transmission. They have a little green light that comes on when that scope is level, because that's when you want to pull the trigger. They have an optional lighted reticle as well, too, and a whole lot of other products, and folks can learn more about them by going to stealthvision.com.
And for seasonings, anything to do with outdoor cooking, all kind of jerky seasonings, sausage seasonings, Butcher Packer Supply. That's butcherpackersupply.com. I think the website is butcher-packer.com. Friends, this segment is made possible by Platinum Cadillac and Chevrolet in Terrell, Texas. Stop by and visit with my buddy, Mr. Justin Rudd, and his team of experts, and let them put you in a new Chevy pickup or a Cadillac or whatever you might be in the market for. Also, the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma. Check them out at ChoctawHuntingLodge.com. Also made possible by Pyramid Air, your one-stop shop for everything airgun related. Well, friends, let's head up to Lake Texoma and join Mr. Bill Carey and his pet crows. I can hear them in the background. Bill, good morning to you, buddy.
Well, good morning, Luke, and all y'all out in radio land.
Yeah, good morning to you and those crows. You're outside this morning, and got the boats out. Everybody's out catching stripers. I thought it'd be fun to for you and I to give a quick striper fishing tip, and then I want to talk a little bit more. There's that crow. We got to name him. We got to name that crow. But talk a little bit more about our rendezvous in Greenville, March the 1st, which is today. If you're listening on the radio, come a running, as Bill says. that crow. Would you bring that crow to the rendezvous? He doesn't know it, but people from Fort Smith, Arkansas, to the Permian Basin, out in the Panhandle, and all over East Texas, they're listening to him. He's a famous crow, Bill.
Heck yeah.
Okay, stripers, let's get focused here.
All right.
It's March. Tell us what the pattern is. I'm not worried about what happened yesterday. Just the pattern of stripers is what I think would help people right now, you know?
Well, it all busts loose today, Luke. We've been fishing through the winter and dodging the storms. We call them northers. We call them northers, these storms, and we've been dodging them. It all busts loose today. So we've got, I think, 8 boats out, and we are rocking, ready to go. The water's still cold, and but we still trophy fish in March. But now it's going to start warming up, and we'll start having schools because we just target the bigger fish, rogue fish, on structure, on points with the Roadrunner jig and that 7-inch curl tail for big trophies. Now we're going to have fish schooling, and there's the best of both worlds. You'll get size and numbers. So yes, sir, spring has sprung. It is time to rock and roll.
And, you know, we always talk about striped bass because you couldn't mention Texoma and not do so, but the sand bass, the white bass, I learned with you the last time we were fishing together, a few weeks ago, month ago maybe. Well, we were dead sticking and got in some of the biggest. I think those big old white bass that I think would weigh honest 2 pounds. I think they got you as excited as the stripers, and you know how crazy I am about catching. One thing about a white bass, if you catch one, I won't say they're easy to catch, but once you get them turned on, you can catch a bunch of them, and that's what we did. We had already limited on our stripers and got out there, and you said you caught the first one, I remember, and it was about a 2-pound white bass, and you said, look at this. This is what I've been telling you about, Luke. And then all of us started catching them, and there was, I don't know why, but there were no dinks in that bunch. All of them were 1.5 pounds to, Yeah, but Bill, those people, when I tell them about the size of white bass up there, the sand bass at Texoma, they say, wait a minute, 2-pounders? Well, honestly, a 2-pound white bass is a big one, but you guys have actually caught them. Y'all have actually caught them up to 3, I think.
Yes, we have, and they're there. I was going to say on the radio, well, when you're catching stripers, it's not going to be a little sand bass that runs with those stripers. It's going to be big ones.
That's the key. I never thought about that. Yeah, if it were a smaller sand bass, they would be eaten, wouldn't they? Probably.
Yeah, I got a good story. You might want to say it on the radio.
Yeah.
I was guiding, and I was in my 18-foot pro right before we backed out of the slip, and I said, hey, boys, I got some gravy for you today. And they said, what's that? And I said, Texoma Magnum sand bass. We've been catching, I made the cover of Outdoor Times with a pair of 3-pounders. And I said, big old sand bass, up to 3 pounds. And this boy in the boat says, we catch 3-pounders on my lake. And I just kind of, And then first big sand bass he caught, he goes, whoa, how big is that, 5?
Yeah, that's it. And that's just across the board with fishermen. For many years I did a fishing tips column for the Dallas Morning News for 14 years. Yeah, and I would be interviewing, talking to tons of fishermen every week. That's what they paid me to do. And some of them would, I'd say Bob Sandlin, some lake that is a good lake, but not so many people fish it. Yeah, I caught we limited out on those white bass. It averaged about 3 pounds. I just listened, and I knew better. Most of those 3-pound sand bass might weigh 1.75 pounds,
Yeah, and that's a big sandy.
It's a huge one, yeah. Anyway, so sand bass are always a plus. But what's happening right now in March is the spawn is, would you say early stages for the stripers?
Well, the sand bass are spawning right now, and the stripers start. We have a rare, strange spawn here. I attribute it to being this lake has got so many different arms of females being in different pregnancies, of stages of pregnancy. So they'll start dropping in March, but it peaks in May, but it goes all the way through April to May, and it peaks in May. But we start dropping eggs in March. It's very rare. I call it a 60-day spawn.
Yeah,
just unheard of.
That's a good way to sum it up, because the lake is so big, and it's not like one big body of water. It is all connected, but there's arms, huge arms of the lake, isn't it? You know.
Yeah. Big Mineral right around the corner here is one of my favorite places to fish, and it is a lake in itself. It's got every condition, every structure, everything you want.
It is, folks. You can contact Bill Carey, StriperExpress.com, Facebook. You should really, if you want to keep tabs on what's going on, go on Facebook and connect with Striper Express there, Texoma. Bill, you know, I want to thank you. Back to our outdoor rendezvous, March the 1st. If you're listening on the radio, if you're on the podcast, don't come a-running. You may be listening in other time other than March the 1st. But Bill's going to be with me today. This is our 6th annual.
Yes, sir.
And you've been to every one of them. I think you and Mr. Billy Kilpatrick are going to fry up some catfish, I think, and one thing, I don't sweat very much stuff, but I do. I'm when I bring stuff out there to eat, I want to make sure it's stuff that people will. I made a big pot, huge pot of pozole, which is a Mexican hominy-based soup, if you will. And I've made it before, but this time I made it with smoked pork shoulder, and you make it with tomatillos. They're really not tomatoes at all, but they're of the nightshade family, like a tomato. But a tomatillo is just a little. They'd be like a small tomato, green. Probably people have maybe not cooked with them, but they're used in pozole. And I had about 12 tomatillos, and I had a couple of big jalapenos, and I had a bunch of poblano peppers with the meat. And I smoked all that together. And, you know, Bill, they talk about, you know, most recipes show you put all that ingredients in a blender. Well, I'm not even, my wife might have a blender. I never use it, but I think she's got one somewhere. But when I got through 12 hours in that smoker in an aluminum pan covered with foil after the smoke, I smoked it all uncovered for a while. All those tomatillos and all that stuff, they were so soft that when I put them in a bowl and just pushed them down, they shredded quickly. So little bits of all that in the pozole. But I've got a huge pot. We're going to have a big dipper, and folks can do that. And some of y'all's fried fish. That's something that you and Billy have done for several years, and it's always there's never any fish fillets left when the crowds get through. But thank you, Bill, for supporting that and for being with us out there each year. It's in Hunt County at the top Rail Cowboy Church, right there off of Interstate 30, Greenville, Texas. It's about an hour east of Dallas for folks that are not maybe listed somewhere streaming on the radio or something. But a lot of fun, isn't it, Bill? Music, a lot of booths and all. It's kind of a I don't know. I consider it like a reunion of sorts. But it's
a rendezvous.
It's a rendezvous, not the type the old mountain men used to have. You want to tell? We've got time for a quick, funny story, Bill. I'm going to let you tell it. Do you remember several years ago there was a gentleman way up in his 80s, a big old guy, come up to me, had thick glasses on. You remember him?
Yeah, you called me over. It was a great story.
Tell that real quick. We've got time, I think.
Okay. I'm not sure if this is the man that pulled out that column that was 40 years old, and there was a picture of you there.
That's him, I think. Man. Yeah.
And he said, Luke, I've been a fan. I've been listening to you. I've been reading you in the newspaper all these years. And folks, Luke's dressed just like we are, blue jeans, boots, and, maybe a fishing shirt or a camo shirt.
Yeah.
And he looks at him and he says, if I got this right, he looks at him and says, you don't look anything what I pictured you. And Luke goes, who'd you expect? Jeremiah Johnson? I
was very polite, though. I was. I think I said it something like, "Well, sir, were you expecting Jeremiah Johnson here?" But that's part of the fun there, and that's we've got some storytellers that come out of the woodwork. By that I mean out of the backwoods.
It's free admission.
It is. Just come on out. If you're in the right place at the right time, it's free food too.
Yeah, got music, people peddling all their goods. Anything you want.
Got Bill Carey. You can corner him and really pick his brain too, right here, and get some of his secret striper tips.
Bill, all talk fishing. You know that.
I know that, and I think all our listeners have come to realize that too. Bill, we're out of time. Thank you for being with us. Let's see, Striper Express, any way you want to find it, Facebook.com. You can leave a number if you would, Bill.
Well, if y'all like to call, our number is 903-786-4477. That's 903-786-4477.
For about the past decade, I've been hunting editor for Airgun Hobbyist magazine. I think the only magazine devoted strictly to airgun shooting and hunting in the country. Well, in that length of time, I've learned quite a bit about big bore air guns and smaller calibers too. A spot to go to that if you're interested in air guns, you need to know about Pyramid Air. The website is PYRAMYD, pyramidair.com. They have anything and everything you need, from the guns themselves, the big bores or the smaller calibers, to the accessories. Just remember pyramidair.com, and there's a number when you get on the website if you need to call and talk to somebody. Give them a buzz, and they can fill you in on little details that you might need to know about shooting or hunting with big bore air guns. While you're on the website there, I'd like you to check out the big bore air gun that I've done a great deal of hunting with. It's the Seneca Dragon Claw, 50 caliber, pressures up to 3,000 psi, and it looks like a conventional rifle. Wooden stock. I think you'll like the appearance, and I know you'll like the performance. It shoots not only bullets, but also air bolts as well, tipped with a broadhead. Check it out. It's the Seneca Dragon Claw.
The snowflakes fall as winter comes, and time just seems to fly.
Friends, this segment is brought to us by CVA Muzzleloaders. In my opinion, the very best muzzleloaders in the world, the ones that I shoot. You can check them out online, cva.com. AGM Global Vision, maker of the Rattler and the Adder that I use. You can check them out online too, agmglobalvision.com. Kubi's Wild Game Processing and Kubi's Restaurant in Dallas. And Vineyard Max, maker of some awesome deer attractant and some very fine game feeders and fish feeders, located down in Nacogdoches, Texas. Check them out at vineyardmax.net. Well, folks, we've talked about a lot of cooking, a lot of hunting today. It's time to talk some winter catfishing. It is still winter here, early March. Let's go down to Lake Tawakoni, my buddy, guide Tony Pennybaker, and let's talk about some late winter blue catfishing. Tony, thank you, buddy, for being with us.
Good morning, Luke. How you doing, buddy?
I'm awesome. I tell you what, today's the day of our rendezvous, so got a busy day going on.
Oh,
but
that's right.
Wanted to holler at you real early here. We've had some mighty cold weather for this part of the world. Sub-zero, dang, in the teens. Now, and I want you to explain to people, people that catfish, a lot of people think it's always a summertime deal, and it is. Summertime and catfishing goes hand in hand. But a shad kill, this cold, frigid weather, these fronts that come through, take a toll on shad. They're a pretty fragile little bait fish, shad are. And tell about why the catfishing gets so good after a period of real cold weather, Tony. Explain that to folks.
Man, that sudden drop in the temperature, water temperature, you got these days like today, or, yesterday, or whatever. And back before the daggum fronts come in, you usually hear it may be 80 degrees.
Right.
And that old water temperature is climbing, and the shad are going in the shallows, and Then all of a sudden the front blows in with 30-mile-an-hour wind. Temperature drops, catches them in there, and throws them in shock. Once that temperature gets down, that water drops down below 40 degrees, throws them little old shad in shock, and they die. A lot. I mean, they don't all die because there's millions of them, probably billions of them.
Right. Yep.
But if just a few percentage of them dies, that's a whole lot of dead fish.
Right.
And then, of course, you know, them old catfish, they're opportunists. You know, they're going to go down there and them dead shad are everywhere, and they can just eat them. They don't have to chase them. They can just eat them. And the wind's going to blow them down on them windy banks, and the fish are going to follow, and they're going to get into a feeding frenzy like a shark on a fresh kill.
Exactly.
And eat it until they can't get another in their mouth.
That's what
and
happens.
then they'll eat some more.
That's it. That's why. And then as far as choosing a place, here's a good question. Choosing an area or a place to fish, say we've had the temperature down in the teens and you do have a shad die off, it's going to happen. Well, then where are you going to be fishing after that? Is the wind's going to play a factor, right?
Yeah, wind. I mean, here the wind's going to turn around pretty shortly after all that happens and blow out south.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And south, southeast wind, southwest. You're going to go to the banks where that wind and them waves are slapping them banks. Up in the coves, gonna blow them dead shad up in the back of them coves. You're gonna go back in the back of them coves, getting shallow water, 2 or 3 feet, might be 1 foot. You know, they're not gonna be deep. They're gonna be wherever all them dead shad are at.
Right.
And they're gonna be blowing. You know, I think it only takes just a day for the things to kind of start floating, you know. And because you may not even see them neither. I mean, I've seen shad kill bites when you would hardly see a dead shad.
Right.
And I've seen them when there's millions of them dead, and you can see them everywhere. And then I've seen it where they was biting just as good or better, and you never see a dead shad. Because sometimes they just sink to the bottom and hardly float.
Right. So that answered that question. So after a day or two, when the wind does shift back around, there's going to be a ton of food. And Tony, the blue catfish, I had a reader from, I forget exactly what area he was from, that actually sent me an email, and he said he caught, I forget, it was a big blue. By big, I think 45, 50 pounds, if I remember right. But he told me, he said, the blue catfish eat birds. Did you know that? And I said,
yes, they do.
I said, blue catfish, from what I know about them, will eat anything, just about, and that might include a shoe. I don't know, but he caught one with he didn't know what kind of bird it was. He said it was a good-sized bird. I wonder if I don't know what kind of bird the thing had eaten, but he was still, he caught it on a shad, caught this fish, this big blue, and he said that you could see the head of the bird still in the thing's mouth. And
I'll be damned.
So I don't know. I asked him what kind of bird was it. He said, "Well, it was a white one." So I'm thinking that thing may eat a gull. I don't know. But
one of them little old kites, I call them. You call them something different.
A tern, a little tern.
Yeah. They sat on the water.
Yeah, that could have been it. Just
and then of course it could have been dead. And the blue cat come across it and just ate it. But
yeah, they will eat. I mean, people fish, which I don't think it's the best bait. To be honest with you, I've never even used it. But chicken breast was soaked in garlic. I don't doubt for a minute that a blue catfish will hit that. But I also don't think that he's going to hit it as well as he would.
I saw a YouTube video where a guy was cleaning. They come in, there's a guide service, and they were cleaning fish. It wasn't on Tawakoni, but somewhere else. But that was about a 14 probably pound blue cat. Not a real big one, but a good fish. His belly was swelled out there, all big, and when they cut into it, it was a duck.
A duck?
A pretty good-sized duck.
If he caught it in the winter, it would not be a baby duck, that's for sure. There are no baby
full-grown
ducks.
duck. It's full-grown duck. It wasn't a mallard, but it was like a teal.
Yeah.
You know, that size, like a medium wood duck size duck, not a mallard or a gadwall or nothing real huge, but still a full-grown duck.
If a 15-pound blue catfish can eat a teal, a 50-pounder could swallow a mallard.
A 100-pounder can eat anything he wants to.
Anything in the lake, probably including
anything. Well, the other day I was telling people, I said I've seen them eat pretty good sized channel cat.
Oh yeah, me too.
And the fish I was cleaning, I didn't have it. It wasn't even one of the biggest ones. I was cleaning this fish probably 8 pounds, and he had a 14-inch channel cat in his belly.
It's amazing. Tony, when years ago before all the regulations, I remember we used to use what we call chug head catfish. And I think it was really a chug
head.
Everybody knows what a chug head is, but little old bitty thing about maybe 5-6 inches long. We used to bait with those back in the day, you know. I mean,
they're real bloody.
I'm getting a call coming in, so that's our next caller, folks. It's live radio, so let's let them beep for a minute. I'll get them later. Anyway, we'd bait with, and I always wondered how in the world a blue catfish, or back then a flathead was what I was really trot lining for. How they could eat that thing? You know, they've got their barbs sticking out on either side of their head. How can they get them fish down with those, the barbs like that? But they don't.
They swallow them head first. Every fish I've ever seen in any fish's belly is in their head first.
They don't have a problem.
I don't know if they can turn them around or if they hit them in the head.
Yeah.
But, when they swallow them that way, them fins lay down the other way.
That's it. They lay down to their body, don't they?
Yep. They lay down the direction the opposite of how they're swallowing them. And if they swallow them from the tail, that catfish is span them fins out, or anything else as far as that goes, sand bass or crappie. That row of fins they got on top ain't no joke.
That's true. Yeah, what I've always enjoyed about our radio show, and then writing about the outdoors, dealing with so many people like you, some of these fine points in the outdoors that most people never even think about. I mean, I have thought about that back 100 years ago when I baited trot lines with these chug heads. I thought, okay, you hook them up in the front, and how they got to take the bait. How do they get them in their mouth? They probably, honestly, even on the trot line, on the staging, they probably come in head first, They probably do. But I could always
suck them in there, man. When they come approach that thing, they kind of...
They don't play around,
They kind of give it like a pull. That thing can pull water.
Suck it in,
like
don't
a vacuum.
Yes.
And he can... And he gets up there to it, and he
then it's
his head right down in his throat.
That's right. Well, Tony, I've enjoyed our catfish visit. I mean, we can get as technical as we want to, but the bottom line is right now.
Find them windy banks after these cold spells. They'll find them blues. That's where they're at.
Windy banks. That's a good point. And put some fresh shad down, or if you can't get shad, how about some cut buffalo or drum?
Anything cut.
Yeah.
You got some in the freezer,
Yep.
Sometimes around after these spells, we have a real hard time catching fresh bait.
Yep.
So, if you got some in the freezer,
break it out.
I personally think a frozen shad is as good as a frozen chicken myself.
Probably, yeah.
A frozen chicken is still frozen for how long? But, when them things are feeding like that, I know that David and I had gone to Wright Patman years ago and got bait because we couldn't get none here. So we had a whole bunch of bait. I'm thinking we had like 40 gallons of bait apiece. So we had it all iced down in big ice chests. And it came one of these bad spells. So the shad kill was on. And, of course, our bait was 3 weeks old, sitting in those coolers, but they would just eat it up. It didn't matter. it was old bait, but heck, them fish are out there eating rotten shad.
That's right. Yep. It
doesn't really matter.
Well, Tony, I wish we had about 4 more hours to talk catfishing, but we are out of time. If anybody wants to buy your Tony P's punch bait, which is awesome, or come and go fishing with you, tell them how to get a hold of you.
Best way is give me a call, 903-474-3078. You can order your bait online at bestcatfishbait.com.
Folks, that about wraps our show up for this week. I've enjoyed being with you, and I hope you've had a good time, too. And, folks, we're also brought to you by the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma, located about, 45 minutes west of Hugo, Oklahoma, owned by the Choctaw Nation. It's about 45,000 acres of awesome mountain, country, hills, valleys, loaded with game. Lots of eastern turkey, and they do eastern turkey hunts if you're looking for a spot to hunt turkey in the spring. Also, I want to remind you about the Seneca 50 caliber Dragon Claw that shoots bullets and pellets. And by pellets, I'm talking about 200 and 210 grain lead, chunks of lead. It's a big bore air gun that I use. Check out the Seneca Dragon Claw there at pyramidair.com.